there's nothing like making somewhere feel your own quite so quickly as putting a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old inside it, because actually I think the thing that made it ours very quickly were the sticky little fingerprints.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say art. But it's kids' fingerprints.
It was kids.
Hi, I'm George, the co-founder of Bluethumb, and I'm joined by my colleague Amy. Welcome to the Art in My Home podcast.
We uncover the surprising stories from the art collections and life journeys of unexpected guests.
Today's guest is Hannah Spilva. Hannah's the co-founder of the incredibly successful and disruptive flower company LVLY. They were pioneers of same-day flower delivery in Australia, and they recently sold the business for the huge amount of $35 million. Since selling, Hannah has launched Radical Ventures with her husband Conrad, which helps grow new startups. And she's got 2 interesting new consumer companies already on the boil, which I can't wait to hear about. Welcome to the podcast, Hannah.
Thanks for having me, George.
You are the owner of the incredible Biscayne House. Now, I said that right?
You said that perfectly.
So Biscayne House is an amazing looking place. It was renovated by Kate Walker, and it sort of has this strong design legacy. Since you have moved in, how have you made it your own in terms of styling and art?
Well, we've been at Biscayne House for just a little under 2 years now. We bought the house with everything in it.
Wow.
Which is a fairly unique situation. And the reason we did that was because we were relocating from Paran at the time, where my husband and I had lived for 7 years, and we had our kids there, and we were relocating over to the UK for 6 months. So it was almost like a bit of a opportunity for a wipe the slate clean, fresh start. And so when Kate was selling her home with the opportunity to buy everything in it, it just felt like the perfect kind of opportunity to go overseas for a 6-month adventure, not worry too much about organising the logistics of, storing furniture, buying things to fill this beautiful new home with. But I guess on the flip side of that, what it did mean was when we moved into it, it did take a little time for us to really feel like it was our home with our things.
Of course.
Having said that, what I would say is there's nothing like making somewhere feel your own quite so quickly as putting a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old inside it, because actually I think the thing that made it ours very quickly were the sticky little fingerprints and the texture marks on the kitchen bench top and the 37 Barbies which are kind of littered in various parts of the home, and the skateboard on the veranda and all of those things. So I think the beautiful thing about having a young family is you really don't need things to make it feel like home, because it's the energy and the chaos and the very small humans that almost immediately help put your own print on it.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say art. But it's kids' fingerprints.
It's kids, which is kind of art, it's its own form of art, right? I sort of probably didn't feel brave enough, I would say, for maybe good 12, 18 months to make any art purchases. I was so afraid of disrupting the very stunning aesthetic that Kate had already created. It almost felt a little bit intimidating
for sure
to then put my own stamp on that. But with time and with living in it, finally kind of, made the decision to buy a couple of pieces of art. And there's been 4 or 5 pieces which I really feel have helped change the energy and definitely make it the Spilva's abode, as opposed to it once being Kate's home. So most recently we bought a piece of artwork from a local gallery called Studio & Co. It's a stunning, quite large scale oil painting by an artist called Neil Williams, who's actually British born, but now lives just down the road from us in Flinders.
Oh, nice.
It was one of those sort of beautiful things where I wasn't specifically looking for something that day, but just happened to stumble across this beautiful oil painting, and it just spoke to me. It reminded me of home, actually, despite the fact that it's of a landscape on the peninsula close to Flinders.
Yeah.
It's incredibly green, and it has this innate stillness, and it just transported me to where I grew up, which is the UK, like the green fields of home. And I just felt this connection with it. And it was that moment of, oh shit, I think I really need this in my life. And it was not an inexpensive piece of art, but I think that's probably been my biggest splurge since we moved in. That's really helped make me feel like I've put my stamp.
It's Hannah's home.
It's
not
Hannah's
Kate's
home,
now.
despite the fact that it did cause a minor marital dispute.
Artwork always does, don't worry.
Which I think art has a tendency to do.
It can, yeah.
You would not be the first person who's come on here and been like, we did not agree.
Like just looking at it here, look, it feels very calming to me.
Very
The sort of,
calming, yeah.
You know, a calm sea, the nice kind of muted colours.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think the scale of it as well, it can't help create that really welcome interruption as you walk past it. And I'm a human with an extraordinarily busy brain, which tends to run at 500 miles an hour at all times of the day and of the night, quite frankly. So having that constant intentional interruption when I walk past it in the entryway to our home, it creates that beautiful moment of stillness for me every day, which I really appreciate.
Like a calming breath.
Like a calming breath, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes we have people who like large-scale chaos. Gives you energy, and I feel like this, could really zen out the space.
Yeah, I think in our home, there's a lot of energy, I think for lots of reasons, not least because we've got a young family, so it's sort of frenetic, chaotic family life. But also I think one of the beautiful things in the way that Kate designed the home was that there is lots of colour, there's lots of pattern, there's lots of texture. We have beautiful wallpapers, which also brings quite a high frequency energy to the home.
For sure.
So having those moments of stillness kind of dotted around the home, I think add a lot to the overall aesthetic. It's a beautiful home to be in.
I think you have one of the most famous bathrooms in Australia with that Gucci wallpaper.
We just fondly call it the bird bathroom.
The bird bathroom,
We don't really refer to the fact that there's Gucci wallpaper on the walls.
Just go to the Gucci wallpaper
Because
bathroom.
quite frankly, I don't think I've ever owned anything with the Gucci brand, so it seems rather obscure that it's
on
a
the wall.
wallpaper. So in our home, we just refer to it as the bird bathroom.
Yeah. And when you moved in, was Kate's aesthetic kind of already what you were channeling in your house in Prahran, or was it kind of like a complete 180, try something different?
It was far, far from it.
Yeah.
And I often say to friends that had we had the opportunity to build that house from the ground up, and if we would have been given a blank canvas, we would never have asked for what is there today.
Sure.
But I am so grateful that it's ours, because whilst I would never have been brave enough to make some of the design decisions that she made, what it has given us is such a happy space to live in. And it's really taught me the importance and impact of having colour in your life. And I think for a long time there's been so many trends towards very, very neutral aesthetics. And I was absolutely both hands up on that bandwagon for such a long time. And I think our home in Prahran was a reflection of that. We had polished concrete floors and quite neutral tones and sisal carpets, and it was quite textural but quite neutral. And I thought that was my kind of style. And I think actually what it meant was I just hadn't figured out what my style was, so I was just borrowing trends from mainstream Australia and other places around the world. And actually it has been nothing but utter joy being surrounded by colour and light-filled spaces and textures and beautiful stone finishes, which I would never have chosen or invested in. And it's taught me to be much more braver in my design choices, not just with interiors, but personally in how I dress. I'm wearing, and I can't say that today because I'm actually in double denim, but I am wearing so much colour, and I've never done that before in my life, and it just elevates my mood. So it's really taught me design's not just about what you see, it's absolutely about how it makes you feel, and our home is a perfect example of that.
I love that.
I really love that too. Yeah.
Because we'll talk about your career soon, but I would say, having listened to you spoken about your career, you've been incredibly brave or bold with a lot of the stuff you've done. Same day flower delivery didn't exist and you just decided to do it, right?
Yeah.
Invent it.
Yeah.
But then, when it comes to kind of the aesthetics of where you live, it can feel scary to kind of put all these things into your house when you're not used to it. And I'm exactly the same, right? So it's cool that you kind of were forced to do it by inheriting it and
Absolutely.
you've learned to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes what happens though is if you're really busy making brave decisions or taking leaps of faith in other parts of your life, it's really nice not to have to do that in all parts of your life. So then your home almost becomes a bit of a sort of safe haven and a space where you don't have to really push yourself to make those big creative leaps. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel grateful that, Kate did what she did and we happened to stumble across the home and buy it, because I would never have been brave enough to do what she did.
Yeah.
But I love it every day. It makes me so happy.
Flinders is a beautiful part of the world as well. I know you said the artwork, channels your home, but I think that Flinders has got rolling hills and...
It does. I mean, we're just on the other side, so we're in Mount Martha.
Oh, of course, sorry, yeah.
We were chasing the beach lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, Flinders is on our doorstep. It's stunning. We're surrounded by so much natural beauty, though.
Absolutely. So nice.
Is it Carol and Hallam?
It is, yeah.
Did you choose that because of the business you're in, or
I
how did that come about?
So that was a very impulsive decision, and actually that was the first thing I bought myself after we sold the business. And I just really wanted a piece of art that reflected Lovely's role in my life. So I was purposefully looking for something that had a floral subject matter.
Yeah.
And I bought it rather impulsively, really. But I'm really fond of it because it does mark that chapter in my life. So that was a gift to myself after selling the business, which now sits sort of above the dining table in our kitchen.
Oh, nice. And how did you come across the artist?
It was before we moved, and I would often try and snatch an hour for myself on a Saturday or Sunday morning and just wander through Armadale, and I'd be in and out of Rose Street trading quite often.
Yes, love them.
And it was a piece that I'd been in and admired a couple of times, and I wasn't sure if it would still be there. And as luck would have it, I think sometimes certain pieces are just meant to be yours. And yeah, I sold the business. I wandered back in, kind of hoping, anticipating that it might be there, made it my own that day. And then it sat in storage for 7 months while we were adventuring overseas. But it was the first thing we hung on our wall when we moved into Biscayne. And it's a nice little reminder sort of every day as I'm making a cup of coffee in the morning of how grateful I am to be where we are and the role that Lovely played in helping us sort of land a dream house.
Yeah, that's so nice. It's a really nice way to mark that. I sold an email business and I didn't do anything.
We'll get you there one day, George.
I don't know how I'd mark that. Maybe.
We'll find you an
Find me a
artwork.
piece.
Yeah, we'll find you something. Obviously, living Prahran's a bit dangerous because you've got a Fenton and Fenton print as well. So
yes,
very dangerous to go shopping around there.
I know. We've got a couple of pieces from Fenton and Fenton, actually. A couple of large-scale, very, very colourful pieces,
Love
which
this
were
work.
actually the only two colourful things we had in Prahran.
Yeah, sure.
And now they're dwarfed, quite frankly, by the amount that's going on in Biscayne, but we still have them. And it was beautiful to be able to carry them across from our Prahran memories and find their place in Biscayne. And so we've got quite a large landing upstairs, which is actually set up. Now I think of it a bit like a gallery. It sort of wraps around all of the bedrooms, and it's where some of my favourite artwork is in the home, two of which we inherited from Kate, which are two very large-scale pieces by Sally Anderson, which are absolutely stunning.
That's beautiful, that work.
Accompanied by a very, very cute print, which I've recently added by a British artist and illustrator called Hugo Guinness, who many people will have heard of.
Yeah.
And I was always a fan of his work. And there's a piece that my dad and my stepmom bought me for Christmas, actually, and it just simply says, "Darling." And the thing I love about that is every time I walk past it, I don't see it, I hear it. And so growing up in the UK, darling is a word that's thrown around a lot. And my dad and my stepmom and my mum and lots of relatives will always refer to me as Han darling. And if I call them, the first thing I hear is Han darling. And so it's a word that's so intertwined with my upbringing and my sense of connection to my family. And now, of course, I call my two little ones, darling. For me, it's just the simplicity of that bold print by Hugo and the word darling. And it's the fact that I don't see it, I hear it. I love it. It's so, so simple, but it means so much. It makes me feel like I'm almost having a conversation with a family member when I walk past it. So yeah, lots of different pieces that mean different things and evoke different memories. But I think that's the thing for me. Every piece that we've added is really meaningful. There's a narrative there. It's not just something that looks good. It's something that either transports me, or, for example, the piece that we bought for our bedroom is a beautiful piece by a Spanish artist called Eva Armisen. Her style in general is very charming, very childlike, simplistic, and it's this beautiful scene of a young boy and a young girl on a roller coaster with their arms up in the air, and the boy and the girl both have brown hair. And the moment I saw it, I actually just saw my 2 kids, both of whom have dark hair like myself and my husband. The boy's slightly older than the girl in it, which is exactly, like I've got an older boy and a younger girl, and all I could see was Archie and Skye on this roller coaster with their arms up in the air enjoying themselves, and it's called Una Aventura, an adventure. And again, I immediately had to have it because I immediately just saw my children in it having fun, but it also being an opportunity, and a conversation started to talk to my children about life's an adventure, and it's like a roller coaster, and there's ups and there's downs, and this is what's going to happen, and this is what you should expect, and it's all part of it. So yeah, I'm a big one on narrative, and maybe that's from my brand background, but storytelling and narrative. So there's meaning behind everything we have in the house.
For sure. No, that's lovely. Do you have any of the kids' art anywhere?
We do, on the fridge.
Okay, yeah, nice.
That's okay. It's nice that your new pieces work really well with the pieces that were existing in the house as well, like the Jiva Sex gone with your Sally Andersons. Like, it's nice that they can kind of amalgamate together and work so well.
Yeah, they do. But I haven't overthought it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not qualified or experienced enough to know how to curate art well. So it's just sort of a happy accident.
Yeah.
But I also think if you really love pieces, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
It's your home.
Yeah.
So as long as it's filled with stuff you love and stuff that makes you happy, like, who cares?
An interior designer we had on the other day said the exact same thing. So there you go. She doesn't collect per aesthetic. She collects because she finds meaning in things, and that's what she likes. But she's like, I can't buy a piece of art for a wall that needs it, kind of thing. So
I guess, segueing into aesthetics, so the Lovely brand, everything was very beautiful to look at, including the packaging, the website, all the rest. I guess you would have sort of had to live in that, right? Because that was super important for growing it. I know you're a co-founder, there were 2 of you. Were you driving that, or were you both kind of like aesthetic and design drivers?
I guess when it comes to building the brand holistically, obviously we both equally had a role to play in that. But I think probably the part of the brand that you could see, the aesthetics of it, was very much something that I was driving. But then everything that you couldn't see that made it work behind the scenes, my co-founder was leaning into and driving. Brand is definitely my passion, and it's what I spent a big part of my career doing prior to starting Lovely, when I was working in the advertising world, which I believe you did too, George. Brand was just something I always felt really passionate about. I was always amazed about the way brands can make people feel something, feel part of something, and the aspirational nature of brands and the empowering, enabling nature of brands, and sort of all of the psychology and emotion that goes with that, I always found wholly fascinating. And so for me, I wanted to start a business for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I was playing business setups and like selling stuff and playing shops, and I just wanted to work from I can vividly remember from the age of 14, I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to move to Australia. These were things that I was really clear and intent on doing. And so I didn't know what the business would be, but as my career developed, it was clear to me that it wasn't just about building a business, it was about building a brand that people could connect to, a brand that would stand out in whatever category I ended up working in. I wanted to do things differently and really be held up as a brand that people would say, I love that brand.
Yeah.
That's kind of iconic. They've got a cult following. And to do that, you have to do things differently to stand out. But it wasn't until sort of having been in Australia for a couple of years, I moved over here in 2009, that I landed on the idea for Lovely. I was homesick, looking for ways to send loved ones back home in the UK, things to let them know I was thinking of them. It was really, really clear there was a gap in the market for something that was on trend, affordable, and had this really strong branded aesthetic. And so funnily enough, the first thing that came to me was the name. And I just, and it came to me as LVLY, not lovely in the typical spelling. And it was weird. I just had this really strong intuitive sense of what we should call it, what the tone of voice should be, how it should look, how it should feel, even before we'd really nutted out the product.
Yeah.
All of the copy that still remains on all of the packaging and all of the products that we sell, I wrote. So I was coming up with the names for the products and calling the chocolate Tall, Dark and Handsome or Dreamy and Creamy, or our body scrub, calling it In the Buff, or like all of these things were just things that I was dreaming up and thinking of. And the boxes, that carry the "Someone Thinks You're Awesome" phrase, and the jar labels from "Sending lovely vibes to you, lovely fucker." These were just ways that I was trying to articulate this mood, this energy, because really what lovely is about is it's not about the flowers, it's about the feeling. It's about being that unexpected, slightly irreverent, mood-boosting moment in somebody's day that makes them feel really good about themselves, makes them feel loved, supported, thought of. Flowers happen to be a really wonderful way to help do that. They're a great facilitator to help people feel those things. But for me, it was always about the brand.
Yeah. It's funny. We did some branded boxes a few years ago. We printed the artists their art in the Bluethumb boxes, and I'm pretty sure we referred to you guys and Frank Body for our copy on the boxes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, Freddie, who is at Bluethumb, he wrote the different copy things, but I'm pretty sure he referred to you guys because, we had the biggest box was, maybe fragile, but I'm very beautiful. Oh. Like on the box. Just that kind of,
Yeah, we were early on in really going out there with dialing up tone of voice as being a core part of your brand identity.
Yeah.
And now I think there's lots of brands that do it, and there's lots of brands you could reference that do a really, really good job of it. But yeah, I really lent in hard to that part of building the business, and I loved it, and I still love it. And hence why I'm doing it all over again.
At a super high level, flower delivery and selling art have some similarities because as an artist, selling art is an incredible feeling, and getting art is one of the best feelings. You really love it, right? You connect with it. It's a beautiful thing to receive, but also logistically it's a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
Moving art around, like the logistics of shipping art really is horrible. And I'm like, man, this sucks. But, flowers would be worse, I'm sure.
It's terrible. It's awful. If anybody out there listening is thinking about doing it, just save yourself a whole bunch of problems. I would never do it again.
And perishable.
And
right?
perishable. Yeah. So you've got, and honestly, we were so naive. It's so funny because I was so distracted by all things brand and isn't this fun, and let's come up with some cute phrases and do a whole bunch of, fun collaborations with other brands. I think it took a while for the penny to drop and for me to have that moment, that oh shit moment where I realised we're a logistics company. Yeah. We're not, oh my God, hold on. We're not selling flowers at all. We're actually shipping things across Australia faster than anybody else was doing at the time because nobody was doing same day. So not only are we a logistics company, but we've put ourselves right out there at the front trying to do logistics that nobody else has figured out how to do. And they're experts. And we've got no idea what we're doing, which I think actually is the only reason it worked, because we were stupid enough to just try and make it work. And at the time, what that looked like was us literally putting flowers in the back of our own cars and delivering them around Melbourne and then eventually Sydney, and, hiring our own drivers because, like you say, flowers are perishable and they're fragile, and it's a genius idea to sell them in glass jars. So then you're adding another fragile component. But not only that, we're putting water in the jars because we need to keep the flowers alive. Sure. So then how do you keep them upright and still during transit so that not only do they not break, but they don't spill? So there was just so much complexity to what we were doing, and, we cracked it. And I look back and I'm really, really proud of us that we did, because we overcame some challenges that I think other people would have just quite frankly gone, this is too hard, let's just go in a different direction. So I'm proud of us. But logistics in Australia with flowers and art is a nightmare, so credit to you, George.
Well, it's not me doing the logistics side, but it's hard, and art can be packaged better and doesn't expire the next day.
No water normally.
Finding the right art for your home doesn't have to be overwhelming. Bluethumb's art advisory service is here to help, no matter your taste or budget. From a single piece to a collection, get expert guidance at no cost. Click the link in episode notes to start your journey with Bluethumb art.
After selling Lovely, you and your husband launched Radical Ventures. What inspired this new direction, and how has it been different from building a single brand?
I sort of forget that we launched Radical Ventures, to be honest. It was kind of a dinner table conversation that turned into me building a website the next day. And really, I guess it was just an opportunity to kind of formalise the fact that we are out there with an interest in helping other brands grow and scale, helping people learn from some of the really silly mistakes that we've made so we can kind of pass on some of those learnings. And also, I guess, just helping us identify some businesses that we really want to get behind. Because I think there's never been a moment for me since selling Lovely where I ever considered taking my foot off the gas and not working, because for me it's just what I love doing.
Yeah.
So it's just an opportunity to connect with other businesses and help them do great things. So there's a few businesses that we've become involved with. One is called Buff Studios,
Yes.
which was the first investment that we made after selling Lovely. And my husband's made many sort of small investments prior to that. He's involved with a number of businesses, but it was the first one that he really encouraged me to, you have a think about what you want to do. Let's find a business you want to invest in, that you can get involved in and help grow. And so for me, that was Buff Studios. And the founder of Buff, Emma Forrest, her background was working for Australian icon Aesop, which, I say Australian icon, it's a global brand.
Yes.
And it's really been a bit of a trailblazer in beauty. And so she cut her teeth in beauty. She was very much involved in growing the digital side of the business. She really understands customer experience, both online and offline, and she identified this opportunity in the nail industry. And I always love those moments where somebody points out an opportunity and you're like, that is so simple and so obvious. Why has nobody else thought about that? But hurry, let's do something with it before somebody else does. And really that was just that the standard of customer service and experience and product in the nail industry is pretty low. There's little, if any, regulation. Yep. So we've got 5 studios now, all in Melbourne at the moment. We actually just launched our 5th in Mornington, and we'll be going interstate shortly with a focus on a very premium, elevated nail experience, and not just from an aesthetic point of view. So yes, the studios are architecturally designed, they're beautiful spaces to be in, but also we've created Buff Academy, so the training and support for the technicians is incredible. The quality of the products we're using, we've sourced the globe for the best of the best, and we're importing those into Australia. And so there's no other nail experience in Australia like it. So that's been a really fun, brand-driven project for me to get into. Yeah. And second to that, that's kind of inspired me and re-energised me to do my own thing all over again. So I'm in the midst of launching a hair care brand, which, by the way, I said if there was one category I would never get into, it was going to be beauty. And I seem
you've got 2 brands.
I know. So at the start of 2025, I'll be launching a business called Done, which is a range of premium at-home hair colour products. For me, it's fun. I just love work. I love creating. I love designing consumer products. I love the adrenaline and the challenge of just creating something from nothing. Yeah. And so that just keeps driving me.
Yeah. We've Done is the plan to distribute through kind of, chemist or supermarket channels, those big selling channels? Is that going to be a new...
I would love, and my hope is that absolutely it gets pulled into all of those distribution channels. Yeah. And I think if we do a good enough job of it, it will be. Yeah. Where we're starting is really kind of my home turf in D2C and e-commerce. It's what I know. It's what I love. I mean, sure, it's changing. So I probably shouldn't flippantly say it's what I know because it's constantly changing, right? Sure. But for me, it was a no-brainer. So we'll be starting in the world of D2C, and then my hope is that we move into other distribution channels over time.
That'll be a fun, exciting new experience dealing with supermarkets.
I know. And I'll need to get a lot of help from people who know far more about it than I do, because that's not the world I existed in with Lovely, because we were completely vertically integrated. We only sold through our own channels. So I have little experience in dealing with wholesale and retailers. So I'm going to be way out of my comfort zone. And, you know, most of the people I speak to don't fill me with confidence that it's going to be the easiest or most exciting thing to do.
Proven wrong.
Which is kind of like a red rag to a bull, I guess. So we shall see.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, look, you know, we're like that in art. My brother was an accountant and I knew about building apps, so...
And now here they are, selling art.
I think that often sets you in really good stead, though, because you don't have a preconceived idea of how it should be. So you inadvertently break all of the rules because you didn't know that the rules existed. And I think often that's the difference between businesses that disrupt and businesses that don't. So that's what I keep telling myself anyway, just to put a positive spin on it.
I completely agree. I think it's nice to have the outside naivety, and then, knowing the rules can often get you a lot further, I think.
I think so.
We asked a bunch of people in 2012, a bunch of gallerists, why aren't they selling art online? You know, would they? I remember the belly laughs that's from some of them, just laughed out of the gallery.
And now they all do it.
Yeah. So I sort of often think, oh my God, it'd be so nice to not have the pressure of having to kind of run a company, just be an investor and give a lot of advice and kind of sit there and help, but not have, wake up in the middle of the night worrying about the next big thing. I guess you had that when you sold Lovely, and then you sort of came in, invested and had Buff. You just sort of got bored and wanted to be done? Is that what happened? Like, I want the pressure again? Or?
I think so. I think there's nothing like rolling your sleeves up and like getting it done. Yeah. No pun intended. Yeah. But just...
Will that be the slogan? No.
Making it potentially. You heard it here first. Can we trademark that? I think pretty much I just didn't feel the same level of deep satisfaction as just doing it yourself and actually putting your money where your mouth is. And the truth is, I just realised that I don't want to stop working, so it's my responsibility to create a career for myself. I couldn't be employed. Arguably, I think I'm quite unemployable. I am so used to being able to fly by the seat of my pants. I'm not a good process and protocol person, and my co-founder will attest to that, who's very operational. I just feel like the startup ecosystem is the perfect playground for very creative people who enjoy the freedom of making it up as they go along, of doing things differently, of having the audacity to try and do things in a different way. All of the above, I just love it.
Yeah.
And I can't think of another career path or another organisation that I could go and work for that would give me the freedom or the playground to do all of those things and enjoy all of those things. And I think the other thing is I want to work, but I don't want a job. I want a mission. Yeah. I want something that I can live and breathe and worry about when the kids have gone to bed at night, or get inspired about on a Sunday morning, or when we're travelling overseas, take inspiration from it and then in some way bring that inspiration back and bring it to life in an unexpected way. And so... in many ways, do I want the pressure of building another business? No, not really. But I don't know how else to create an environment that will enable me to do all of these things I enjoy. But with the enjoyment comes pressure. So is the roller coaster of life with many things, There's a light and a dark side to everything. So, the pressure comes with it, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think, for now.
Yeah, it's more important to build something.
It's more important to build something and have fun.
Yeah.
And life's hard anyway, so... it's not going to be hard if I don't build a business. It's just hard in different ways. So I might as well have a bit of fun.
It's either hard and boring or hard and fun.
Exactly,
Yeah, fantastic. I love that. No, I share that attitude too. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Hannah. This has been a great chat.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's been far less daunting than I expected it to be.
If you love art and hearing collectors' stories, please share this episode with a friend. And don't forget to follow the show, rate and review to help make the pod more visible. We acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional owners of the land we're recording on, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging.